I'm Daniel James, and you're listening to 7am. Back in 2024, the ACCC announced it would take Coles and Woolworths to court over what it says were fake discounts on more than 500 everyday products. It followed tip-offs from citizen sleuths who've been documenting curious price changes on everyday products like chocolates and pasta. Now that case is in federal court, with the watchdog arguing Coles misled customers with its down promotions, increasing prices just before discounting them again. Coles denies it did anything wrong, putting the price jumps down to rising costs. A separate case against Woolworths over its price-dropped promotions is expected to follow later. Today, we're bringing you an episode from 2024, where Ruby Jones speaks with economist and journalist Peter Martin about the reckoning facing Australia's two biggest supermarkets. It's Sunday, February 22. This episode was first published in October 2024.
Peter, let's begin by talking about how this legal case was built. Where did the ACCC's investigations begin?
Initially, it got phone calls. Now, it gets a lot of phone calls and it has a lot of discretion about what to investigate. In fact, most of the things it gets, it never investigates. In this instance, there were so many that it looked further. And when it looked further, it discovered social media, hundreds of posts from, I don't know if you call them citizen data analysts or citizen data journalists.
Coles and Woolworths pricing is fascinating, and I've got a really great example.
One was from a guy called Price Check Guy. Now, one post on TikTok about Cadbury Caramello koalas has been viewed 373,000 times.
Okay, I'm actually a little bit upset by this product, and I'll tell you why. Here's a product that was consistently $1 discounted to 80 cents, $1 discounted to 80 cents, and in one day, it just jumped up to $2. So now, it's $2 discounted to $1, and Coles is calling that a half price.
That's what the ACCC saw, but then it was able to, as it has the power to do, seek data from the parties, in this case Coles and Woolworths. Now, it can only do that legally, normally, if it's preparing a legal action. So they knew something was coming because the ACCC has been going through the data on their computers for some time.
Okay, so the ACCC has been trawling the data. So what has it said that it's uncovered about just how many times these kinds of promotions were happening?
It's only presented 500-odd cases. It could have presented more, but it said that it's wanted to only look at cases where prices had been steady for at least 6 months before the action. What happened in the action was an increase of a few weeks and then prices being discounted to a price that was no lower than the price had been for months before. And the products are the kind we all use, aren't it? Tim Tams, Kellogg's cereal, Stay Free pads, those are some of the ones for Woolworths, Energizer batteries for Coles, Libra tampons, Nescafe instant coffee. If the ACCC can establish that people took them at their word, that's a key part of the ACCC case. It says, and it needs to establish this, that people were led to believe that Coles and Woolworths were looking after them by delivering lower prices. In other words, people didn't think it was a trick. It has a strong case to argue that it's misleading and deceptive.
As this court case is launched, how would you describe the way the public feels about the big two supermarket chains?
I think the public hates the big two supermarket chains, but it wasn't always like this. It's an appalling come down in terms of public image. During COVID, Coles and Woolworths got together. They ensured we got toilet paper, all of the things we needed. Woolworths, they were a mere year ago in September, the most trusted brand in Australia, according to Roy Morgan. Now, that same company, Woolworths, is Australia's 5th least trusted brand. I think they probably always behaved badly where they could. That's a guess. Don't hold me to that, but we'll see what comes out in court. But when prices shot up in 2022, We saw, according to the ABS, in 2.5 years, a 16% jump in prices. Previously, they'd increased only slowly. You know, a lot of that was just passing on costs, but the ACCC report says Woolworths widened its margins in that time of high inflation. We started paying attention. We saw the pain every time we went shopping. We were horrified at what we saw.
Robust competition. I mean, Rod Sims, the former head of the ACCC, says that we have one of the most concentrated supermarkets in the world. Is he lying?
It's not true. And
then we saw the walkout from a Four Corners interview from the chief executive of Woolworths earlier this year.
His words are that
retired, by the way.
I don't think you would impugn his integrity and his understanding of competition law.
I'm just saying the world has got much more competitive.
He retired 18 months ago. He's not...
Okay, can we take that out? Is that okay?
We saw the same chief executive, as a result of that, being threatened with imprisonment when he refused to give a clear answer to a Senate inquiry.
I've answered the question many times.
You have not answered the question, Mr. Banducci. Honestly, I'm not interested in your spin or your bullshit. This is a Senate inquiry. Answer the question. Was your return on equity 26% in the last financial year, which is more than 2.5 times?
It's been really one, I suppose, image blunder after another, although none of them are as serious, I think, in the mind of the public as this.
Coming up after the break, will Coles and Woolworths fight back? Peter, Coles and Woolworths are being sued by the ACCC over allegedly misleading customers with these illusory discounts on everyday items. What have the supermarkets said about how they plan to respond?
Coles says it will respond, and that's all. It issued a statement to the stock exchange almost immediately after the ACCC statement, which tends to indicate it thought it was coming. And Woolworths merely said it would continue to engage with the Commission, which also indicates that it's been engaging about this, reluctantly letting the Commission inside its computers for some time.
Do they have any chance of beating it?
It's an awful case to win. In fact, winning might be even worse.
What do you mean?
You wouldn't need to let people inside your pricing practices. Everything would come out in court. We saw this with Qantas. Qantas sold those ghost flights that had already cancelled, and when it made its submission to the federal court, using the same provision of the Australian consumer law, it said people did not buy tickets when they bought them for a flight. They bought, quote, a bundle of rights that enabled them to various things. Now, this made Qantas a laughingstock. Does Coles want that? What Qantas did was to settle out of court for a total of $120 million. And I think it regarded that as fairly good value for money. And it's interesting that Woolworths has not said it will fight it in court.
Okay, there's probably a lot of conversations happening behind the scenes then about how both companies should handle this.
I would say so.
Tell me about the possible penalties.
Labor increased the penalties shortly after it was elected. The penalty was $10 million for an instance of misleading and deceptive conduct. That's increased to $50 million. I don't think anyone thinks that they'll add 500 cases together and multiply them by either 10 or 50 million. That would be an extraordinary amount of money. There is a provision in the law, actually, which says if it's too complicated to calculate, there can be an award of 30% of a measure of turnover, which would be enormous. That's probably not going to happen. The Commission has certainly said it wants those firms, Coles and Woolworths, to donate money to charities that provide food to people in need. I think what it wants is a big number. In interviews, Gina Cass-Gottlieb, the chair of the ACCC, has said she wants this to set an example. So they don't want nothing. In fact, they probably will not be satisfied with a genuine promise to fix the behaviour. they want this to set an example in the same way as the Qantas case did.
So the ACCC, they're seeking significant penalties. But Peter, what else is the government doing beyond that?
Well, just this week, on Tuesday, the Treasurer ramped up the pressure on supermarkets further. He announced an extra $30 million to the ACCC to investigate their pricing practices on an ongoing basis.
So what we're announcing today is all about more resources for more investigation and more enforcement and more sites for competition.
And he
that's what this
talked about negotiating with state governments and through them local councils to sort of unpick planning logjams.
In addition to this crackdown, I'll also work closely with states and territories to progress reform of planning and zoning regulations as fast as possible so that we can boost competition in the supermarket sector by opening up more sites for new stores.
The biggest thing, according to the draft report of the ACCC inquiry, that stops people going to a competitive supermarket, apart from inertia, is that there isn't one. And that's because regulations make it hard to start a new one. And in some instances, and the Commission named two, a suspicion of land banking. That is to say that Coles and Woolworths buy a spot. They might say that one day they're going to have a supermarket on it. But the key effect in the meantime is that no one else can. And there's even something bigger that certainly the Greens and the Coalition, as it happens, wants, and that's that the ACCC, applying to the federal court, gets the right to force supermarkets to divest, maybe sell 10% of their stores, maybe sell stores in some states, maybe find an entire arm of the business and hive it off. The Coalition supports that. Labor does not. It happens in the US and it's happened in the UK. What's so different about Australia? Why should Australia be less, I suppose, free market in the sense of promoting competition by breaking companies up than the US or the UK?
And just finally, so we've heard Jim Chalmers say that cracking down on supermarkets, that's about relieving cost of living pressure. So do you think that what has been announced, so this ACCC funding boost and more land potentially becoming available for new supermarkets, do you think these measures are going to do that, to make the cost of living more affordable for people?
I do think they'll have an effect if they're surrounded by pressure from all sides. And, frankly, the government's announcing a new thing every few days, and there'll be the major inquiry reporting in February. If they're surrounded by pressure on all sides, they have the ability to listen. It's a bit like Qantas. Qantas charges high fares, but it can cut them when there's competition or when it's under scrutiny.
Peter, thank you so much for your time.
A great pleasure.
I'm Daniel James. 7am will be back tomorrow with an episode on Elon Musk's plan to launch 1 million satellites into orbit to power AI. What will that do to the night sky, and what happens if the satellites collide?
Near where I live in Saskatchewan, Canada, a SpaceX Crew Dragon trunk, big pieces of it landed onto farmland. Farmers found these giant pieces, got in contact with an astronomer, and then had to figure out how do you deal with pieces of a foreign country's spacecraft on your farm, right?
Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.